Hello everyone, welcome to URBONUS podcast. I'm the host Donatas URBONUS. I'm joined by Rytis Vyšniauskas. Rytis, how are you? What are your feelings this sunny, lovely Monday afternoon?
My feelings are great because actually yesterday in El Clasico, Barcelona kicked Real Madrid's asses in Santiago Bernabeu, so which makes me really happy. But on basketball topic, these days I started watching more NBA games because they started meaning a lot more.
Okay. You're getting ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, teams are trying to improve their position in the standings to make the playoffs, to make the play-in tournament. So I'm really focused on the NBA right now, following the Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic debate for the MVP race, but at the same time...
There's no Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic debate, right?
No, probably not. Karl Anthony Towns could be there close, but definitely not Rudy. But at the same time, plenty of EuroLeague action. Honestly, I'm really happy because last week we were back in the Žalgiris arena. Probably our viewers and listeners do not know this, but during these pandemic years, we were commentating Žalgiris from our studio in Vilnius. We were not going to Žalgirio arena, and it was really nice to be back, to feel the atmosphere, even though it was not that great, especially against FS. Against Oli, it was nice. Against FS, it was
bad.
Silent, but... last time I was in Žalgirio arena working, it was Luka Doncic and Slovenia winning the Olympic qualifier.
I thought that you will say that
no,
and Real Madrid.
The Olympic qualifiers in the summer. And this whole season I haven't been to the arena, so it was nice to be back.
That picture over your head is from that game, actually. that was an amazing game, including the atmosphere, the importance, Luka Doncic performance.
Everything about that game is memorable, except the fact that for us it hurts. It was the first time Lithuania, after regaining independence, didn't make it to the Olympics. But yeah, so I'm having a good time recently, and as you said, the weather here is sunny. We're finally feeling spring. Maybe our listeners from, let's say, I don't know, Barcelona or
more or less
Tel Aviv,
from everywhere in Europe
will not understand this, but for us, every sunny day, every time you wake up in the morning and you see sun shining, is something special, because we don't have many days like that.
And it's like that for 7 or 8 days in a row. It kind of feels like something bad is coming, because it's not how it's supposed to do in Lithuania.
But come on, it's March.
You know, it's sometimes in March or April we have snow, so...
I know, I'm just trying to be positive.
Last week we had two great coaches, two great teams, Olympiacos, FS, and actually FS, Ergin Ataman press conference was great. He made some good points, especially about the EuroLeague and standings, and he made a great point, which we actually said like 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, saying that EuroLeague had to show some leadership in deciding all these situations, like the classification for the end of the season. Okay, you can keep the voting, but at the same time, if you're a good leader, you can, let's say, impact the voting the way it should be better for the tournament. So that's what actually Ergin Ataman said. He was very open, I would say. Actually, before the game, we wanted to have an interview with Ergin. Nothing special, just a pre-game interview. He actually, or let's say FS, they rejected the pre-game interview session and request. But after the game, after his win in Kaunas, he was really interesting, and I actually felt kind of, bad, because if we would have been discussing all these topics which he said about, how much he misses Krunoslav Simon, or how tough it is, to think about making the top four to get home court advantage for the playoffs, and now they still have to think about just making the playoffs. And he said that there was some kind of panic inside the team. So I really liked Ergin Ataman. He was very sincere and made some really good points.
Yeah, he was right. I mean, that whole vote on the EuroLeague standings, it was a selfish vote. Everyone's voting for their own interests and
not for the league's interest.
As we said, CSKA also voted in it, which didn't make any sense.
He made a great point that Zvezda and Monaco, they were left out of the voting, even though they had way more to do with the decision.
So at the same time, I would like to say thank you to some of the people that left some comments on our previous YouTube videos. Some of them had really good arguments about the EuroLeague standings, why percentages wouldn't be fair also. And we can agree that none of the outcomes would be 100% completely fair. So we've discussed this already. And also, I saw one of the Turkish fans probably commenting on our video about Shane Larkin and his performance in Monaco. And I really didn't know. And I didn't read in the press that he was sick, that he had some health issues. And
I felt bad about what we said, actually.
Yeah, probably.
When I, when I got to know that he really felt sick for 2 days. I think that Ataman was quoted only by Turkish media.
So we should apologize for basically raising some conspiracy theories, which weren't false. Obviously, if Shane had health issues, then it explains everything. At the same time, we saw like the real Shane Larkin in Kaunas. The shots were not falling, but he was doing a lot of damage to Žalgiris with his pace, with his passing and stuff like that. So again, thanks everybody for your comments. Your feedback is always very important, and sometimes we make mistakes with Donatas, so it's nice to have you following us and spreading the word.
Yeah, and what was very surprising that we're getting the feedback from a lot of different regions of Europe, for example, and we feel very thankful for that. But the most surprising message I've received maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, was from a basketball fan from Ukraine, actually, and he's from Mariupol area.
Oh, yeah. The same guy actually messaged me as well on Instagram.
Right? Yeah. How crazy it is. I mean, he's listening to our podcasts. He said that he tries to learn English. I hope not from me. I hope from you. And to get some basketball knowledge. He's facing all these troubles. I didn't even try to pretend that I kind of understand or, I feel bad for you or something like that, because all these, words are just,
I just said stay strong and stay safe.
Which
exactly. is the most important thing right now.
Exactly. So it's just incredible. And just a quick reminder that you can follow us on BasketNews.com YouTube channel, major audio platforms like Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you're listening to your podcasts. Just type in URBONUS and you will find us. So today we have few interesting topics. We will discuss the game of the week, which in our eyes was the Greek derby between Panathinaikos and Olympiacos. Also, we will share some rebuilding ideas for Panathinaikos. Also, we will raise the question if Rokas Jokubaitis is the NBA player for the upcoming summer. And last week we had players who might expect a significant pay raise this summer. Now we will check some players who may expect some pay cut, or at least they're not
performing to their value at the moment.
Most diplomatic, let's say, description for this topic.
Yeah, we're not gonna say overpaid, because people could argue that every basketball player is overpaid, in the sense that basketball players are not doctors or lawyers or other important people, but it's a matter of opinion. But we're gonna talk about players that are actually, they were supposed to deliver, but they're not delivering this season, and which makes it complicated for them to be in the market for the next year.
Yeah, although Zoran Savic, Partizan GM, could disagree with us, because he said that 30 years ago players were getting paid way better than right now.
It was the golden era for European basketball, I would say, with a lot of stars, some of them leaving to NBA, but a lot of players staying. And I think from that moment, late 90s, the beginning of the 21st century, when the whole FIBA EuroLeague conflict happened, they just could not make the best out of what they had, with a lot of stars, a lot of talented players, legendary players. It was the turning point where you could make European basketball big.
Yeah. Commercialized, let's say.
Which they didn't. And obviously football was leading the way. During those times it was mainly Italian Serie A, but then the other leagues started growing, the television contracts became huge, and basketball sort of stopped developing.
They not even just stopped, they started moving backwards. So
yeah, you could say that. So it was a very good point from Mr. Savic. I read the quote, and I actually do agree with him. If if a basketball player was earning 3 millions in the 90s, and now the equivalent is like 5 or 6 millions.
At least, yeah.
So there is no improvement, to be honest. And
the worst part is that we're still arguing. FIBA, EuroLeague, we're still. We still remain in the same place.
We have those qualifying windows for national teams where the EuroLeague players do not even compete, with some exceptions, but mainly they don't play there, and which makes these international qualifiers boring and meaningless. And at the same time, for the players, you have to choose between playing for your club and playing for your country. It's a very bad situation right now, I think. And I heard some people saying that, like, the situation right now with the Russian clubs, for example, is a chance for FIBA to step in and in the next few years to make the FIBA Champions League the main tournament in Europe. But I do not really believe that people in FIBA are that smart to make it happen.
Yeah. And unless EuroLeague collapse, maybe then they will try to use that opportunity. But right now, even without Russian clubs, I'm not so sure about that. But okay, let's start with Panathinaikos Olympiacos game.
It was game of the week just because of the names.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's Oli and PAO, but
it didn't meet the expectations, actually. Although there were no expectations. These teams are in a very different situation.
The standings show everything. Olympiacos right now is a Final Four contender. Panathinaikos is one of the worst teams in the league. At the moment, probably even worse than Žalgiris.
Yeah, of course. Because also in the standings.
Žalgiris is competing every single
they
coach.
They improved and they're in a very good rhythm right now.
They beat Madrid, they beat Barca. Every single coach that plays Žalgiris, for example, Bartokas says that if they would be like this from the beginning of the season, you wouldn't see them where they are right now in the standings. And Panathinaikos are just as bad as they were in the beginning.
Yeah, so the final result was 101-73. That was the biggest derby victory in international competitions for Olympiacos. Few quite shocking numbers. For example, Panathinaikos lost both games to Olympiacos by a total margin of 47 points. That's the largest total margin Panathinaikos lost to any team in the EuroLeague regular season, according to our collaborator Dairos Garuolis. Also, what was interesting that Olympiacos started the game 38-13. That's how they won the first quarter, and before Panathinaikos never lost any quarter by more than 25 points. Also, Olympiacos, they were only 3 points shy from matching the highest scoring quarter ever in the EuroLeague. Real Madrid holds the record. They scored 41 points against Alba. I think it was 2020. And Olympiacos, they were only 2 points shy from matching the highest quarter difference in the EuroLeague ever. And actually, Olympiacos owe the record. They beat Maccabi by 27 points. They won the quarter by 27 points against Maccabi. And what was very interesting, after that game, I made my calculations, and I just watched the first quarter because other than that, it was...
I watched the first two, so...
Reasonable, unreasonable.
I couldn't concentrate on the second half because when the trash minutes starts already from the beginning of the third quarter, it's pointless to watch the game, and I switched to something else. I believe there was a football game on, so...
Yeah,
it was an easy choice.
What was interesting that Olympiacos in the first quarter, they were 8 from 10 from the 2-point range and 6 of 8 from beyond the arc. So we have only 4 missed shots. And what is interesting that Olympiacos had 4 offensive rebounds. Yeah. So they made 3 turnovers, and that means that only 3 possessions ended up without scoring for Olympiacos. That's an really incredible number for the EuroLeague history books, actually. And I mean, I think that Mustafa Fall set the tone for that game. How aggressive he was against Papagiannis, how aggressive he was not only under Panathinaikos rim, but also on the defensive end. He scored 9 points, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 rebounds, 1 assist in the first quarter, and he looked like that guy from Monstars team from Space Jam. I mean, getting all the energy from Panathinaikos, getting all the confidence, and spreading that confidence to his own team. First and foremost to himself, and the way, I mean, now looking at the extension Olympiacos had with him for 3 more years, that seems like an incredible decision for Olympiacos organization.
I mean, Panathinaikos just couldn't defend, and there were so many easy spot-up shots by Olympiacos players. Of course, it helps when players like McKissick or Papanikolaou make their jump shots, because then it's impossible for the other team to take risks, to help each other, leaving some of these guys open. And Kostas Papanikolaou actually had an amazing shooting week, because they played 2 games in Kaunas and then the Greek derby. In both of these games, Papanikolaou was putting up his best numbers so far this season in terms of shooting. In Žalgiris arena, he even had his best game of the season, offensively. I mean, I never questioned his effort and his defense, his dedication to Olympiacos. He does all these things, but he is always very inconsistent shooting the ball. He gets a lot of wide open jumpers, spot-up shots, but he's hitting like 32% this season, and in the previous seasons, I remember him being inconsistent as well. If he can be consistent like this, making shots, it's a huge game changer for Olympiacos, because Kostas Papanikolaou is a very important player. He plays almost 30 minutes per game, and if Olympiacos is in a playoff series, you could expect him to play like 30 minutes to guard opponents' best players and everything like that. So if he can bring this shooting form to the playoffs, it makes Olympiacos a much better team, because Kostas Papanikolaou is a player that the other teams have to respect. But at the same time, if he's missing some open shots, you have the luxury to leave him open, to leave Shaquille McKissick open, who is also not a very consistent shooter, to pack the paint basically by leaving the corners. And during these 2 games, Papanikolaou really showed that he can shoot the ball, he can make those buckets. And in this game, for example, 13 points, 3 out of 4 3-pointers.
Yeah, so probably that was, that shooting thing was the thing which kind of, he was lacking of to make the NBA career. If he was making shots, if he was consistent making these 3-pointers.
He had some seasons in Europe where he was shooting really good. Again, I remember when he moved to Barcelona. After that, he went to Houston Rockets. It seemed like he could be an NBA player. But as you said, maybe the inconsistency... I mean, the Houston Rockets probably were expecting him to be the 3-and-D type of player.
Yeah, I just checked some Bibolytics stats, how he impacts the overall Olympiacos 3-point accuracy when he's on the court. So with Papanikolaou on the court, they usually make 3-pointers a little bit better by 2% more or less. And the average with Papanikolaou on the court is 36. So it's okay. It's okay.
He increased after these 2 games to 34% from downtown. And in Žalgiris arena, he had, like I said, his best game so far, 18 points. Started with 2 quick 3-pointers, then made some other big plays. And he can be a player like that. When you're talking about Olympiacos, you're always thinking about Slukas, about Dorsey, about Mustafa Fall, of course, under the rim, Sasha Vezenkov as the star player on offense. But if players like Papanikolaou can step up, if Thomas Walkup can start making some shots, they can be even better than they are right now.
Which already sounds incredible, because they're
already great.
Team. Yeah.
For sure, they are already great, but they can be even better if some of these guys just start shooting a little bit better.
Still some room for improvement. For example, they make 3-pointers by 35%, which is only the 10th best record in the EuroLeague. Offensive rating is 4th. So, there's still some room for improvement, but even if we're talking about Olympiacos.
It's very easy to talk about Olympiacos in this context because they're a good team. They have a great chemistry as well. But it's a different topic about Panathinaikos in this case, because there are problems everywhere.
Where's the main problem? You have to make the rebuild for this team, for example.
The main problem obviously is money. We've talked about it like a few months ago already, that they're not being financed as they were in the past. And
because there's still that uncertainty with the owner, Giannakopoulos. He's an owner, but he's not investing, and it's hard for him to sell the team for some reasonable price. So they kind of stuck in between.
And probably Panathinaikos people are not used to working with such a limited, low budget. For example, Žalgiris does that every year.
Yeah.
We know that. We will not have a lot of money, so we have to search for players in the FIBA Champions League or in the Euro Cup, some players that the other teams didn't really scout that much. And for Panathinaikos, it is something new. You still want to have some big names on your team, but at the same time, you don't have the money to sign 5 or 6 big names. You're trying to stick with guys like Nedovic. You're trying to stick with Papapetru and Papagiannis, but then you're lacking money for good, solid role players, which is a problem. And if we are talking about Panathinaikos rebuild, let's try to be realistic. That next season they will not have 20 million euros or 50 million euros. They will probably be in a similar situation that they are right now.
Yeah, for example, currently on the payroll they spend just a little bit more than 5 million euros. Their total budget is around 10 million euros, and for sure that makes them one of the lowest budgeted teams in the whole EuroLeague. So it's really tough, and you have to be very, very accurate with your decisions.
Yes.
And one of the main decisions which comes to my mind is, for sure, the franchise player of this team, Giannis Papapetru. I mean, I like him as a player. I like him as a personality. In my eyes, he's a very good helper for, I would say, for any contender. He would be a very nice, player with a specific role on my team. But at the same time, I cannot have him as the best paid player. And Papapetru, he gets close to 1 million euros. And for such a low budgeted team like Panathinaikos, probably only Papapetru is a small forward. And probably only Will Clyburn is a real game changer from a small forward position in the EuroLeague. Other small forwards, most of the time, they're something in between, trying to get this front court and back court thing clicked. And we are talking about guys like Ulanovas, about Deshaun Pierre, for example. These are
glue guys.
Yeah. Giannis Papapetru, I mean, he was not efficient this season. There were a lot of expectations on him. He's averaging almost 11 points on 52 2-point shooting and 25% 3-point shooting. His performance index rating is less than 10, and he's never consistent. He's never very impressive. He also got injured. So it's a big luxury for an organization like Panathinaikos with the budget of 10 million euros to have him and to spend 1 million euros on him.
The problem is that you still want to keep some of the Panathinaikos DNA.
Yeah.
You still want to have some good Greek players. You saw Dinos Mitoglou leaving. You saw Nick Kalaitis leaving. You saw some other Greek players leaving during the years. Now all you have is Papapetru and Papagiannis, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Papagiannis is a big guy. He's having a good season, which means he might get some interesting offers, actually. And
although he's still under contract.
So for now, maybe he could stay. It would be important. I agree with you that it's a big luxury for Panathinaikos to pay 1 million euros for a small forward, even though he's a Greek player, even though he's a Panathinaikos player. But my idea of rebuilding this team starts from something else, actually.
From backcourt players?
No, from the coaches.
Oh, okay, of course.
Dimitris Priftis, what I saw from him in Unix and what he's trying to do here with Panathinaikos, he seems to me more of an offensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when he was coaching in the Euro Cup, the Unix team had a lot of talent. Usually their games were high-scoring games with a lot of three-point shots. Trusting the American players to lead the team. It worked, but at the same time they had a very good roster. This Panathinaikos team doesn't have the money and the roster to win by offense, by skill, and by talent. The example for them should be like Crvena Zvezda building a defensive team. So I'm starting with a head coach, and I would like to have a more defensive-minded coach leading this team. There will be some coaches in the market. Do you have
any
the summer
names that comes to your mind? Because although Priftis signed a 2-year deal with Panathinaikos, it's very unclear if he will stay. Because I've heard that there's some disappointment in Panathinaikos organization, which is very natural. But sometimes he's a rookie really coach, and sometimes these coaches get a second chance. It's very unclear if he will get a second chance. But if Panathinaikos will enter the coaching market
It's hard to come up with a name right now. I mean, some of the coaches are top shelf coaches, and Panathinaikos is not in position to sign them. Yannis Fairopoulos is a former Olympiacos coach. I'm not really sure if he wants the Panathinaikos job, but he is definitely more defensive-minded than Coach Priftis is. You have to look at some of the, maybe underrated coaches in the lower levels. Some coaches... Usually there are interesting coaches from the Balkans, Croatian, Serbian coaches, Jaka Lakovic coaching in Germany. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah.
But the idea is you need to have the clear profile of the coach. And in my opinion, for this Panathinaikos team, it has to be a defensive coach. So this is the first thing. The second thing, you mentioned Papapetru, and I agree with you to some extent about him. My problem is, though, Nemanja Nedovic. How much is he being paid? Like 500,000, 600,000?
I think that he's something around 6 and 7.
His talent is worth it, but you have the player who misses 50% of the games during the season. And I don't have any reason to believe that it's going to change. This was the case with Nemanja Nedovic for 3, 4, 5 years. He's always getting injured. And when you are a low-budget team, you cannot afford to have your main playmaker, main creator to miss so many games during the season. So
this year, I think he missed 5 games, if I'm not mistaken.
5 games, that's not that much.
Yeah.
Last season he missed more. But still, I mean, I would be thinking about somebody else, and I think that if I'm building a defensive-minded team, I need to have a floor general. Right now, this team has combo scorers like Nedovic and Macon. They brought in Stefan Jovic, but it was already in the second part of the season.
And he's injured again, and they're really lacking of true floor general,
so
I would say.
Rebuilding this team, I would need a point guard, a solid point guard, and there are some really solid players, for example, in the Spanish league, not in the EuroLeague clubs, but in some of those teams, and you could find something there. Moving on, I need a stretch 4. This Panathinaikos team has problems shooting, and their power forwards are very limited. They're playing Okaro White and Jeremy Evans at the power forward position. To me, in the modern game, both of them are more centers. In the switch-all defense, for example. They are not good shooting the ball from distance. I need at least one stretch 4 on my team. I like having Papagiannis as the center, as the big guy. I need a more mobile center as a backup, not Kavadas, somebody more mobile. But then I need also a power forward that can shoot the ball. A good example could be Tyler Cavanaugh from Žalgiris, somebody like that. And then again, just shooters, at least one good shooter. This Panathinaikos team doesn't have good spacing. Why? Because they don't have shooters. Yeah. You're playing a lineup with Howard Centros, Jeremy Evans,
they have good athletes.
Papagiannis,
but they just cannot make shots.
They're not good shooters.
And they usually end up in half-court basketball. If you remember Priftis teams, they were always running and gunning. This team is neither very fast nor they're very accurate. I mean, they're 17th by three-point shooting accuracy. They're 11th by the pace of the game. Their offensive rating is only 17th. Defensive rating is also 17th. So there are a lot of problems.
So and my rebuild would require a lot of changes. I mean, Daryl Macon wouldn't be on my team. Nemanja Nedovic wouldn't be on my team. Howard Centros wouldn't be on my team. Okaro White, Jeremy Evans. I could keep one of them as a backup center, not as a power forward.
I'm actually okay with Nedovic or Macon. I would keep one of them. I want scorer at my backcourt. But as you mentioned, next to Nedovic or Macon, I need a true point guard. The worst thing is that it's really hard for these point guards to adapt in the EuroLeague. We have a lot of different cases with rookie EuroLeague point guards. For example, we saw what happened with Emmanuel Mudiay. For example, the transition to EuroLeague basketball for Keenan Evans took a lot of time. Kendrick Perry, that was a bad experience for him in Panathinaikos. So I would like to have something experienced, let's say. But the thing is that in this market, all these experienced point guards, they're signing with big teams for big money. And if, for example, Lorenzo Brown will be a free agent and he will leave Unix, I would love to see him in Panathinaikos, but he's just too good right now for them. Unless you're not paying 1 million to Giannis Papapetrou. So other cases, I don't know. Mao Dolo, Ethan Lundberg, I'm not so sure.
Again, a combo guard.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's really hard to find.
If you're keeping Nedovic, then you need somebody else.
And then, next to Nedovic and the true floor general, I need very defensive-minded guard. Just what Olympiacos did with Slukas, Dorsey, and Volkov. I think that this kind of strategy on your backcourt, it works.
Yeah, it does. But again, we're talking about limited money, which is why I'm saying that I need to be very careful. My biggest investments have to be the point guard, the coach, and a shooting big, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
So with these guys around, I could trust my coach to build a good team, sign some role players. Of course, I would need at least 1 or 2 Americans that can play a one-on-one in isolation. Nedovic and Macon maybe fits the profile, but I'm not sure I really liked what I've seen from him this season.
Who do you choose? I mean, if you have to decide between Nedovic and Macon.
I would have Nedovic in this case. But as I said, in my idea of the rebuild, both of them would be out.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against Nedovic. He's a great player. But I'm just thinking about Panathinaikos in the position where they are, and do I want to have a injury-prone player for more than €500,000?
Mm-hmm.
Which is also not very consistent. He had some good games this season, but sometimes it happens that Nedovic has a good game on offense, Panathinaikos still does not win and is beaten by a lot of points. So,
or sometimes he just loses the control of himself and he just really loses the game, lets it go away. Although what is interesting that I've heard that he's, let's say, kind of a locker room leader for Panathinaikos, and players around him, they kind of believe in him. So that's also important for the continuity of the team. And you know what they're also missing? You already mentioned, I mean, only Papapetrou, Papagiannis, and other than that, I don't see any solid impact of any other Greek player. And I think that they're actually doing it right now. They signed that 16-year-old Greek prospect, Alexandros Samodurov. He's a potentially NBA player in the future for sure. He won't help them in the near future on the EuroLeague level, but at least they're trying to sign some promising Greek players. But I think I have one interesting solution for them, and I was actually surprised that is the best, highest scoring Greek player in all international competitions, including EuroLeague, EuroCup, and FIBA Champions League, and it's Panagiotis Kalaitzakis. It's crazy to have this efficient and all-around Greek player playing in Lithuania for Lietkabelis Panevėžys. And when he came to Lithuania 3 years ago, I guess, he was nothing. He was scoring like 1 or 2 points per game in the highest Greek basketball division. He came to Nevėžis, one of the worst teams in Lithuania, and for me, he looked like that, kind of, let's say, brother signing, because everybody was talking about Panagiotis Kalaitzakis, the NBA draft prospect, and it seemed like they brought... George Kalaitzakis, Yorgos Kalaitzakis, he was the NBA prospect. He was the NBA player, and everybody looked at Panagiotis, his brother, as somebody who will take care of him, take care of his brother in Lithuania. But actually, he emerged as very, very interesting player. He's hustle player. He became more efficient. In Lietkabelis, nobody expected that he will be the top scorer. They just thought that he will be that energy guy coming off the bench. Now he became one of the most consistent players on the very solid EuroCup team, I would say. So he's still only 23 years old, I think. So that should be a player who should be really considered by top teams like Panathinaikos, especially now in their situation. A lot of decisions to make for Dimitris Diamantidis and Fragiskos Albertis to sum up, we can just say that, first of all, they have to solve the situation with Dimitris Giannakopoulos on their future. That's probably the biggest thing for them. Then, of course, the head coach, who is the franchise player. How much do you pay for the franchise players? What do you do with the Greek players, and what do you do with your backcourt stars? A lot of decisions to take. From what I hear, they're kind of patient in Athens, because if there was not Albertis and Diamantidis, fans would go really wild about what they're watching.
Diamantidis during the Greek
derby. Yeah. I really feel bad for them. I liked the idea of one of Gazeta reporters, George Kouvaris, who suggested that both Diamantidis, Albertis, and also Panathinaikos players, they should have a big picture of that scoreboard of the game against Olympiacos on their locker room and in the front office. Yeah.
It's so hard probably for Diamantidis and Albertis to see Panathinaikos like this and to work on a budget that is like 5 million euros.
Yes. And we cannot forget they're new in this job.
Yeah, and they were used to winning. They are Panathinaikos legends. They were one of the best players in Europe during their time. And now you're in a whole different world. Olympiacos is miles ahead. In the EuroLeague, you're not playing up to the standards. You don't have a lot of money to fix things quickly. So it's hard, definitely. I mean, Diamantidis was a genius on the court, but not every genius on the court is a genius in building teams or coaching teams. So it's going to be a big challenge.
It's going to be a big challenge for Rokas Jokubaitis as well. He wants to make a promising, prominent NBA career.
Yep.
And we have a question for this podcast. I mean, Rokas Jokubaitis already showed some good strides with Barcelona, playing good games in crucial moments against top teams, also becoming a very important part of Barcelona this year. And he was drafted by New York Knicks last summer. And the question which we're raising right now, some fans are also discussing it, if he's the NBA player this summer already, if he's the New York Knicks player for the upcoming season, what do you think? Do you see him over there, especially now when you're in the playoffs mode already?
I could see him in New York. I could see him being a part of that team, especially when New York Knicks are not strong in the point guard position. Let's be real. I mean, Derrick Rose is close to his retirement. Other players they have, Alec Burks, or I don't know what else. Basically, the situation with Kemba Walker didn't work out. So the point guard position is up for grabs in New York right now. But I think that Rokas Jokubaitis will not play for the New York Knicks next season. I think he still has one more year in Barcelona. Also, he's very smart. He understands the situation, the circumstances. He knows that the NBA will not run away from him if he continues to put up performances like this season. And next year, he might be even better. For Barcelona, he might be their main point guard. Who knows? It is possible that this season, he wins everything with Barca, all the titles. They already have the Copa del Rey. They are the favorites for Liga Endesa. They can win the Final Four, become the EuroLeague champions. You would see yourself as a complete player in Europe with all these titles already. But there are examples of players going to NBA too early. For example, last weekend on Saturday, I had a Timberwolves-Bucks game. And during the trash minutes, when there was less than 2 minutes left, Leandro Bolmaro stepped on the court. He's still not ready for the NBA. He doesn't have the jump shot. He doesn't have the consistency. He doesn't have the trust from the coaching staff. And he is stuck on the bench. He's a young player. He could have stayed in Barca for at least one more year and improve, but he went to the NBA, and Jokubaitis took his spot. And Jokubaitis is performing at a very high level right now. He has the tools, he has the skills, he improved his jump shot, which is very important. Right now, he's hitting those spot-up three-pointers very consistently.
Yeah.
We know his pull-up jumper from mid-range is very good. He's left-handed. He still needs to improve his right hand. He still needs to improve his defense. And I'm not only talking about one-on-one defense, basically just reading the defense, rotating and stuff like that. he can take those steps with Šarūnas Jasikevičius. I think he is in the best environment right now to improve as a player. And after one more year in Barcelona, I think he will be 100% ready for the NBA. Right now, it might seem like a good opportunity because in the New York Knicks, they're limited on the point guard position. But I just don't think he needs to rush this. Do you think that,
I completely
that he needs to
agree
step to the
with you.
NBA already?
I still think that there are a lot of games to play for him, a lot of experiences to go through for him to improve his game reading, situation reading on both ends of the court. We still see some immature decisions both on the offense and on the defensive end. But yeah, the most important thing is that, I mean, I just think that he really enjoys that experience he's having right now in Barcelona. He's enjoying these important minutes against top teams. But, I mean, he really knows, he really understands that it's still too early for him. And what I like the most about Jokubaitis is that he was always kind of shy of himself and of his chances, to succeed on the highest level, and especially in the NBA. He was always a fan of the EuroLeague basketball, and he never expected to be interesting player for teams like Barcelona at first. Now he made the Barcelona team. He didn't expect that he might be interesting for the NBA. He was drafted. And he's getting a good feedback from States. So the best thing is that he's not forcing things. He's enjoying his experience, and it seems like he's going, step by step. And the thing with the New York Knicks is that I don't really trust that organization. I don't see any footprint for, let's say, young, especially European guards coming to this team. And this organization have a clear strategy on improving and developing all these international talents. No, it's a very risky situation. Although when you see their depth chart, their point guard position right now, it seems like it's a good opportunity for Rokas to shine because the competition over there is not really great in that position. But it's just New York. I mean, everything can change so quickly in not only summer by summer, but during the season.
Of course, over there, you're just one of many.
Yeah.
I mean, to us, Rokas Jokubaitis looks like something special. He's going to be the leading point guard for the Lithuanian national team for the next 10 years, at least, or even 15 years, let's hope. For the New York Knicks, he's a second-round draft pick. You might give him an opportunity, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. No hard feelings.
Yeah.
For example, they had like Frank Ntilikina, a young French point guard. They gave him a chance.
He was 8th pick. I mean,
it was a lottery pick. It was a lottery pick. But again, it didn't work out. Fine. They parted ways. Right now, I believe he is in Dallas Mavericks, somewhere on the bench, sometimes getting some minutes. But you cannot call his NBA career so far a success.
Mm-hmm.
So
also, I mean, we have example of Kevin Pangos. He was considered as a top guard in Europe.
Yeah.
All teams wanted him. CSKA, they were praying for him all season. Finally, they got him, but he couldn't come to Russia because of war in Ukraine. I mean, it seemed like he was kind of ready, but we still had concerns. And what we saw that he didn't even make the Cavaliers lineup.
I mean, it's a different case. Because he's an undersized point guard, and the size in NBA is very important. And Rokas Jokubaitis has the size, which is why I compared him more to Leandro Bolmaro as a young prospect. It's not like Jokubaitis is racing against time. He's 21 years old. Next year he will be 22. And even if he stays for a little bit longer and enters the NBA age 25, people in the NBA would still see him as a young rookie.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rush. You're in a very good position right now. You're playing under one of the best coaches. You have a good relationship with him from Žalgiris days, which is continuing now in Barcelona. You have more and more trust from your teammates, star teammates like Mirotic or Kalaitis. They are trusting Jokubaitis to make big plays. We saw some clutch performances from him. For example, in the Copa del Rey final, in the fourth quarter, he was lit. So I don't think he should really think about NBA next summer.
Mm-hmm.
Just focus on Barcelona and what you have right now. You are in a very good position. I mean, people did not even expect him to play so many minutes in Barca in his
We
first
didn't
year.
expect that.
We didn't expect that. You said like he's going step by step. I would say that he jumped over like 5 steps.
In a good way.
In a good way, definitely. I'm a big supporter of Jokubaitis. I always cheer for him. I wish him the best, which is why I'm saying the NBA can wait.
Mhm.
Even if you don't succeed in the NBA, it's not a huge problem. If you prove to everyone in Europe how good you are, when you decide to go back, you will have plenty of offers and opportunities. So,
Yeah, for sure. He's, without a doubt, he's the best young player in the EuroLeague at the moment.
the rising star.
He's a rising star, and he might be the best point guard in the upcoming years, actually, in the EuroLeague, because especially when we're facing point guard market, we're talking about point guards we're lacking of. Okay, Jokubaitis, he also has some skills and abilities of being a combo guard, but at the same time, he's a really good floor general. And I will never forget how Sharas was talking about him after loss in Istanbul when he was the head coach of Žalgiris, and Jokubaitis was probably 18 years old at the time. And Žalgiris had Nate Walters, other point guards, and he was saying to one guy behind the scenes that Jokubaitis, he knew the game plan best among his guards, and he did what I want to do on the court, and he's really smart. And
Don't forget that he actually played as a shooting guard for Martin Schiller.
Yeah.
For the whole year, he was more a shooting guard
and
than
he
a
didn't
point
like
guard.
that.
He didn't like that, but he was getting minutes
Yeah.
on the court in the EuroLeague. And now in Barca, he's a true point guard. I don't know if you saw the game against Crvena Zvezda last week on Friday.
Not full game.
Rokas Jokubaitis played a perfect quarter in my eyes. The second quarter, he played a whole 10 minutes. It was like a perfect performance for a point guard in Shara's team. Then in the second half, it was a different story. Maybe they lost the concentration a little bit. They had a big lead. But in the second quarter, what Jokubaitis was doing with Davis on those pick and roll situations, the alley-oops and everything, he made all of his shots, jump shots, driving to the left. It was a perfect quarter. And of course, in the EuroLeague, consistency is key, especially for young players. I don't want to say that Rokas Jokubaitis already accomplished everything and he's a complete player. There's still some things to improve. He's still not that consistent. There are still steps that he needs to take forward. But yeah, he's just a potential EuroLeague star. And we're being maybe a little bit selfish because right now, if you become a young superstar in the EuroLeague, you leave at the age of 20 or 19 or 21, and you don't get to see these players spending their best years in Europe anymore, like it was like 20 or 30 years ago. So selfishly, I would want to see Jokubaitis playing in the EuroLeague for more than one season, 2, 3 seasons to shine. I don't know, to maybe even be the contender for an MVP.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Because also, I'm really sure that one day we will see Vasa Micic leaving, going to the NBA.
Yeah, sooner than later, probably.
We thought that it actually will happen last summer. It didn't. Maybe it will happen this summer. Who knows? So,
yeah, from what I've heard regarding to New York Knicks and their plans on Rokas Jokubaitis, let's say there are no intentions yet on bringing him to the team for the upcoming summer. But also what I've heard that although I'm not so sure about New York Knicks as a very good destination for Jokubaitis' NBA future or NBA rookie experience, I've heard that he has, let's say, many or at least a few NBA teams which really like him. And I talked with some NBA people and they said, hey, listen, if he will get a good, reasonable opportunity over there, of course that kind of, thing relates and fits to a lot of European players, promising European players, either if you're talking about Micic or Jokubaitis, it's the same. They all need the opportunity to shine and to show if they can succeed in the NBA. But they said that he really deserves the chance and he might be really good. And probably we already talked about it before, but he really if you want to find good European EuroLeague player in the NBA to succeed in the NBA, you have to find some comparisons. Some successful comparisons from previous years in the NBA. And Jokubaitis, he always reminded players like Goran Dragic or Beno Udrih. Some say that he has some similarities with Tomasz Satoransky, for example. And these were really solid guards. I mean, in the best case scenario, reaching, for example, Goran Dragic ceiling, that's an amazing NBA career.
If we have a Goran Dragic career.
Yeah, and even Beno Udrih, we kind of talk about him as a downgrade, but actually he has a career average of 8 points in NBA. He was an NBA champion. The main problem of Beno Udrih was that probably he was just playing for losing teams. And Jokubaitis, the way he's passionate about winning, how dedicated he is, I mean, he deserves to get a chance on a better team, on a contending team. But I mean, these are good comparisons to him, and I don't see any reason why he couldn't reach, for example, Beno Udrih success.
But I think you need to go to the NBA when you're mature.
Yeah,
unless you're Luka Doncic, it's a different story.
Or you have a good organization which will be patient with you.
I mean, all these examples we have right now. I mentioned Bolmaro. Let's
Luka
talk
Vildoza.
about last season's EuroLeague rising star, Usman Garuba.
Yeah.
Is he happy right now?
I mean,
would he be playing minutes for Real Madrid this season? For sure. Is he getting minutes on the Houston Rockets team? No. It would be such a pity to see, for example, Rokas Jokubaitis playing in a G League. He doesn't belong there. And Usman Garuba has to play some G League games because he's not getting playing time on the Rockets.
Although he was already a game changer in the EuroLeague playoffs. I mean, it seems like US or NBA specifically, they made some kind of sanctions for European players coming to the NBA in the past couple of years.
Although we have these Turkish young guys this year that are actually blossoming, and Şengün, for example, a very interesting player. Sometimes it's hard to understand why one player got the chance and the other didn't. But in Jokubaitis' case, go to the NBA when you're mature, when you completed the European basketball, let's say. For example, Vasa Micic completed the European basketball. He's mature, he has the body, he has everything. For him
he won
to
the
move to the
EuroLeague,
NBA,
he won the MVP. Yeah,
for him to move to the NBA it would make sense. At the same time, if it doesn't work out, go back to Europe. You have 5 offers on your table. Every team wants you to be the main point guard. Choose which one. And I would like to see Jokubaitis in this position, because now you can move to New York Knicks, sign a 3-year deal, get stuck on the bench, then constantly talking with your agent. How are we going to work this out? Am I going to be stuck for 3 years? Will I be able to leave? What's going to happen next? Now they're forcing me to play G League. I don't want to play in the G League. So, all these questions. Because the New York Knicks will see Rokas Jokubaitis as one of many potential prospects. And these organizations are not known for patience. They're not known for being patient, especially the Knicks, because you're in the Madison Square Garden. You have to win.
Yeah, they
People
want to
see you winning games, which they haven't been doing for a lot of years. Also, the New York Knicks fans, they don't have an eye on Europeans, on young European players. Remember how they greeted Porzingis when they drafted him?
Yeah.
So they're going to see Rokas Jokubaitis like, where's he from? Who is he?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm wishing him the best in Barca.
We have a short list of players who...
They're not performing to their value.
Yeah, that's the best description. We cannot call them overpaid players, although they can expect a significant salary decrease in the upcoming free agency, for example. Not all of them, because some of them, they have contracts. But if all the players are becoming free agents, we see their value very different. So who would you start with?
I have 2 names. One from the big market, one from the smaller market. So I'm going to start with the big one. I think it's Nigel Williams-Goss. I believe that Real Madrid signed him to be the main point guard, to solve the point guard issue, which was left when Facundo Campazzo departed for the NBA. And for some reason, he's just not playing very well in Madrid. I know he had some injuries, but at the same time, when he's healthy, sometimes he doesn't even make the roster, or he gets like 12 minutes on the court. It's maybe difficult for him also to adapt to Coach Lasso's approach, this Real Madrid's rotation. He's used to playing like 30 minutes and being the key player, as he was in Krasnodar, as he was previously in Partizan, in Olympiacos. So basically Real Madrid signed him for, I believe, more than €1 million.
Yeah, it's something. I think that's something between 1.2, 1.3 million euros.
And everyone expected him to be the main point guard in Madrid, and he is not. Real Madrid is still dependent on Sergio Llull to make big plays. Even Thomas Hurtel is playing better than Williams Goss.
Yeah.
And if Williams Goss would enter the free agency, let's say next summer, if he's leaving Real Madrid, I don't think he would get offers from those top teams. Maybe some teams in EuroLeague would sign him for their rebuild process. For example, like Maccabi Tel Aviv or Panathinaikos, if they could offer him solid money. But it's not about €1 million. It's more like 600, 700K. Yeah. And also top Eurocup teams, because he's a proven player in the Eurocup. The way he was leading Krasnodar, for example, last season. So the Eurocup teams, those richer Eurocup teams could afford him. But the elite EuroLeague clubs chasing titles, for example, Anadolu Efes would not consider replacing Vasa Micic with Williams Goss after the season he had in Madrid. So he's the top name I have on this list of players not playing to their value. And I don't know why it's happening with him. I'm not sure. Is it because of his inconsistent jump shot? Is it just because of some mental things, psychological side of things? I don't know. Yeah. But it's not working out for him in Madrid.
Yeah, it's a weird situation with him, because if you remember in Olympiacos, he wasn't very successful as well. And okay, you could have thought that it was his rookie experience, so everything was normal. But after getting a solid role in Lokomotiv, after delivering big numbers in this team and getting all this good feedback out there, I really expected that he will be a significant game changer for Real Madrid, but it seems like that's why they have to look at Shane Larkin and other players, backcourt stars, to improve their team. On my list, I will start from a player who is playing his career low season, although he's really on the top shelf of players getting paid in the EuroLeague, and it's Chris Singleton. He's averaging only 3.6 points per game, 2.54 rebounds, both career lows in his EuroLeague career. Also, he's hitting three-pointers only on 19%, and with him on the court, FS offensively, they are minus 13 per 100 possessions. I mean, it's basically playing 4 against 5 offensively. Okay, we all know that Singleton was always more defensive-minded player, and even if he goes scoreless, he can make a big impact for his team. But even on defensive side, although his numbers are not bad, more or less he still improves FS defense if we count it per 100 possessions. But there were a lot of games where he seemed to be just not interested in what he was doing, showing no passion, no hustle at all, and it seems like he just got old in terms of being curious about the whole game. So if he becomes the free agent, I think that he still has a plus for the next year with FS. I think that FS will try to opt out of this contract if they will be able. I'm not so sure if it's a player's option or team option, because from what I've heard, he makes something around $1.7 million or euros, which is incredible. It's related to the fact that the way they made the contract was putting higher amount of money for the future years. So in the first years, he was getting less money, but still, even if it's something like 1.5, 1.2, he's not performing to that kind of salary. And if he's becoming a free agent next summer, I think that maximum what he can expect is 700,000 or 800,000 euros.
But the thing with Chris Singleton is that he's a proven EuroLeague player. He is a champion. And if he's a free agent, I could imagine, for example, Ettore Messina giving him a 1-year contract to join the veteran team of Milano. I agree.
He's the player who will still get a chance.
Yeah. I mean, he's not that old. He's 32 years old.
Yeah, he's only 32 years old.
I agree.
He just got older mentally, I would say.
I agree completely that he's not performing to his value this season in FS. And it's not like he had injuries. If I'm not mistaken, Chris Singleton is one of these Iron Men in EuroLeague that doesn't even miss games.
Yeah.
He never gets injured. And he's an energy guy. He's a defensive player. He's a tough player. On offense, well, sometimes he makes shots. Sometimes you can expect him to score points, but that's not why he gets paid money. But this is not the Chris Singleton of last season. I agree with that. I mean, like last season, if you remember, they had a Game 5 in the Madrid series, and all of a sudden Chris Singleton became a Kevin Garnett, and they won the game, and they won the series. I think he still has it in him. I don't see any reason why he couldn't play at that level again. If he's unhappy in Istanbul, that's a different story.
There's so much potential in him. He's still not that old, but the thing is that he seems like that he just shut it down himself.
Yeah, but if I'm building a team, a potential championship team, and he's a free agent and his value has decreased, I would sign him for 1 year.
Of course.
1+1 or something like that. Give him 600 or 700K. It could turn out to be a very good move.
Yeah.
But for FS, maybe they need some changes. They need
some
to refresh the roster. It would make sense to part ways with Chris Singleton, the way he's playing this season especially. And then, as I said, I have another name from the smaller market. And in the small market, you cannot afford 400,000 euro mistakes. It's too much. Žalgiris Kaunas is building a team for this season. First of all, they signed Emmanuel Mudiay. The project was not successful. They got out of his contract, but they couldn't sign an adequate replacement in November or December, which is why they brought Ty Webster. And Ty Webster is not a EuroLeague player. No offense.
Yeah.
But he's not.
That's just facts.
And they have Janis Strelnieks. If you remember our podcast before the season, I was questioning this move. Why? Why in the world do you sign an injury-prone veteran? Is it just because he's Latvian? You were in negotiations with a guy like Darren Hilliard. You could have went for some American shooting guard that can actually score. He's athletic and can play one-on-one. Janis Strelnieks looks like a broken player. I'm sorry, but now I'm supposed to believe that his injuries are in the past? Did you see him on the EuroLeague court last week? It seemed like he's 50.
Every time he fails.
I mean, and they're paying him 400K. You cannot afford these mistakes if you're Žalgiris, if you're Alba, if you're any of those other teams with low budget, Zvezda and all the others. And Janis Strelnieks, to me, it's a mistake that Žalgiris signed him. And I said it from the first day when they did it. CSKA can afford to pay 400K for a player that is injured.
A rotation player.
Žalgiris,
he's supposed to be one of the go-to guys in Žalgiris.
And it leaves you in a situation where Lukas Lekavičius is the only point guard, the only guy the only ball handler, and he has to play 30 minutes, and he's tired, he's worn out consistently, and Strelnieks is either injured or he's on the court playing the way he's playing last two games. He had some decent performances in the beginning of the season, but we know he can shoot the ball. In my eyes, if his agent works very well, next year he could end up in one of the Spanish league teams or one of the Italian league teams for like 250K or something like that. But he's not a EuroLeague player anymore. And the EuroLeague teams, after this season, will not even consider him. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair enough. We kind of consider him as an offensive upgrade. We considered him as an offensive upgrade for Žalgiris, but with him on the court, per 100 possession, their offensive rating is even worse by 5.3 points. This is huge from the player like Strelnieks.
He's a good pick-and-roll offensive player. The problem is, the last time when he was a good pick-and-roll offensive player was in Bamberg. It was a long time ago. So yeah, this is my example from the smaller market. And actually, those mistakes, signing players that don't work out, they hurt even more if you're a small market team. Because if you're FS, if you're Real, if you're Barca, and one or two signings do not work out, it's not a big deal because you have some other franchise star players that are leading the team.
You cannot end up in a situation where Lukas Lekavičius becomes your most solid backcourt
Lukas
player.
Lekavičius should be playing
He's a great guy.
18 to 20 minutes. He's an energy player.
Great backup, but not a main point guard for your team.
And another thing, I mean, maybe some of our listeners don't really care about Žalgiris, but you're signing Kalnietis, a veteran. How can you sign Strelnieks as well? I mean, okay, you've signed Kalnietis, he's your man, his blood is green. Then sign a young, fresh American shooting guard, not Janis Strelnieks for $400K. I mean, come on.
I love how still you're so passionate about the signing.
These moves didn't make any sense to me in the summer, and right now when the season is about to end, it's very obvious.
Okay, my second guy is, I would say, it's not his fault that his value will decrease. It's mostly related to the Russian market collapse after the war and the impact it will have for the future signings, and it has for the previous signings. I just think that Marius Grigonis has to expect for a kind of significant pay cut for the next season, because he was in CSKA. He signed a 3-year, €4 million contract, which is, I'm not so sure if he was about to be paid 1.3 million euros from the first season. Maybe it was a growing contract, but okay, let's take an average of this contract. I mean, with the current situation, especially, okay, in CSKA, his start was heavily impacted by his injury, and I don't consider his experience with CSKA bad. He became a okay role player, but at the same time he didn't become a, let's say, backcourt star of CSKA team. He got injured again. I mean, we all know his injury history. Just 2 years ago, he missed more than a half of the season in Žalgiris. Even last year, he was healthy. He played all the regular season. But if you remember, from March or from April, he wasn't playing at all. He already had a CSKA contract in his pocket, so he just stopped playing for Žalgiris. And now, if he will end up missing the rest of the season, not playing, I mean, we have 3 seasons where 2 of the 3 seasons you spent sidelined for one or another reason. So I don't know. I don't see him getting anything close to 1.3 million next summer.
He still needs to find a way of this contract.
Yeah, that's the first thing, and I would consider him. Signing him something close to, I don't know, 800,000 euros, for example, 700,000 euros.
Maybe even less, but you could sign a long-term deal.
It depends on the situation, on the team, on your role.
First of all, you have to work.
For example, I can see him signing with Efes, for example. And we know Efes, they can pay up to 1 million euros.
Nah,
you wouldn't sign him?
I wouldn't sign him for Efes. Actually, again, first of all, he needs to find a way out of this contract with CSKA, which runs until 2024. If he does, I see some destinations in EuroLeague where he could be successful, and that is actually in Spain. He's known in Spain already. People in Spain know him as a good shooting guard. If a team like Valencia steps up to the EuroLeague again, definitely could be a good signing for Valencia. If Baskonia needs to replace one of their players, Baskonia has a good history with Lithuanians. Marius Grigonis could end up there and could be a success. If you're talking about Efes, Real Madrid...
What about Milan, for example, if Devon Hall wasn't that successful?
No.
I mean, he would be way better than Grant, for example.
Ettore Messina, in these years, we see that he needs players that can play very good in isolation, one-on-one, which Grigonis is not. He doesn't attack the paint. He's not aggressive enough. He doesn't have the athleticism. And also, Ettore Messina prefers players who are athletic on defense. Marius Grigonis doesn't fit the profile, I'm sorry. Ettore Messina is signing Americans. He's going to continue signing the Kevin Punters, the Devon Halls, and all the other guys, not Grigonis. In Messina's team, you need to be able to play in ISO. Grigonis, when he plays in ISO, after the switch, every single time, it's a step back and a free.
And it's a tough contested shot.
He was making those
in Žalgiris,
circus shots in Žalgiris, but come on. I mean, you need to be a Kevin Punter to have the ball in your hands and play for Ettore Messina. So, no, I wouldn't see him in Milan.
So it's a tough market for Grigonis, really.
Yeah. for sure. And also people will see that during the last years, he played only this amount of games. He spent so many months without playing because of the situation in CSKA. So I can agree with you that it's not because of Grigonis, it's because of the circumstances he's put in a position like this. I think these are good examples. I don't really want to say anybody else because there are some players maybe who are not delivering as expected, but it's not as significant as, for example, Williams Goss situation in Madrid. So from my side, it's enough, I think.
Yeah.
We can wrap things up maybe with this week's best games.
We will have way more interesting games than the last week. And just a quick reminder, that is a double game week, and it starts with Tuesday, for example, FS Real Madrid. Great game. It starts quite early. And then you can watch Maccabi Milan, for example. It's another very important game for Maccabi. I don't see them in the playoffs, but if they want to remain in the playoff race, they have to beat teams like Milan, playing at home especially. I think that Maccabi will have a very significant week, playing two home games against Real Madrid and Milan this week. So on Wednesday, we have Monaco Olympiacos.
Oh, yeah.
Great game.
Oh, yeah.
Unpredictable game and very important game for Monaco.
Monaco at home. So it's gonna be.
Did you see the game of Monaco last week and how Mike James performed, making logo 3-pointers?
Which game?
You didn't see that story? I mean, EuroLeague.
You mean the French League game?
No, EuroLeague.
Oh, the practice. Nah, I mean, it again shows how the EuroLeague is not focusing on details, on small things like social media.
And it's all about the details, really. It's all about the details. Oh. My bad.
Mike James will not miss things like that on Twitter.
And didn't delete the tweet for more than 40 minutes. That's gross. Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned, Maccabi Real Madrid, FS Milan, another great game on Thursday. Bayern, they're not playing anymore, and somehow they will have a very tough.
They will have a triple game week, something like that, because of all these postponements.
They're playing like every second day, really.
It's a nightmare scenario for Trinchieri. I'm also looking forward to seeing Fenerbahce finally. They haven't played a EuroLeague game for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Finally, on Friday, they're facing Barcelona in Palau. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, so plenty of good games.
I even forgot how Fenerbahce plays.
Yeah, exactly. They're still on a losing streak.
So I know they played Besiktas on the weekend. I didn't see any of that action. I know that the Colo scored like 24, but
Vesely is still out.
I definitely forgot about Fenerbahce. Yeah. So finally, they're going to get to play a EuroLeague game. So. Yeah, also, they're playing Baskonia before on Wednesday, I believe.
Yep.
It's a Spanish trip for.
I'm actually surprised how Baskonia they came to the party late, but they're still.
I mean, it's just because Wade Baldwin started playing some serious basketball. Maybe Neven Spahia found a key to Wade Baldwin's heart, because Wade Baldwin now is performing like he was last year for Trinchieri. The problem is that for Baskonia, during the first 3 or 4 months of the season, they were not there. They missed even the Copa del Rey. So,
did you see the timeout with Spahia and Giedraitis?
No. What was that?
You can find it on our Instagram page, where he was like, during the timeout, Giedraitis started complaining about something, making some comments, and Spahia was like, Who did even ask you anything? Do you want to lead the timeout? And he started, doing things like that. I don't like it. I mean,
the good old Spahia is back.
I don't really like it.
We thought that he changed when he was in the NBA. He came back being very positive, but the good old Spahia is still there.
Yeah. Deep in his heart, he's still good old Spahia. Yeah, so that's all, folks. Thanks for watching us. Follow us on BasketNews.com, on BasketNews.com YouTube channel, and all the major audio platforms. Rytis, it was a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Donatas.
Have a good week, all.